All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Again, this is the City of Des Moines public meeting for the University Avenue from 39th Street to 48th Street improvements, gearing up for construction. So my name is Steve Neighbor. I'm a Des Moines resident and Des Moines city engineer. I also have with me Dave Camp, who's chief design engineer, Jacob Aarons, who's a design consultant with Bolton and Mink, who will be helping give a presentation. And then once we give a presentation, we'll have a time period for questions and discussion. So, I know, let's see, we have some audio. Terry, it looks like you may have trouble hearing us. Hopefully Terry can get the audio worked out there. Just to, I guess, one point here, let me get to the next slide here, just about this meeting. And so this meeting is being recorded. And so if folks, if you know folks that are not able to attend, please let them know this meeting will be recorded. We'll post this on the city's webpage. There's actually a webpage for the University Avenue improvements, and we'll share that. And so if you can't, if you know someone that can't make the meeting, again, this will be recorded, so you can watch it again later or share the link to the video. But we are on Zoom, and so we ask that again, we're going to give a presentation and then there'll be time for discussion. We ask that folks raise their hand if they'd like to speak or if they have questions. And so if you should see like a menu bar that looks kind of similar to what's on screen, and that'll give you the tools to raise and lower your hand. If you're on a phone, I'm not seeing anyone that's designated on a phone, but either way, if you're on a phone, you press *9 to raise your hand, and mute or unmute is *6. And so that's for the folks that are on a phone. And again, as I mentioned before, this meeting is being recorded. And good to see you. Okay, good. Terry got the sound going. Good. And so we'll again, if you know folks that missed the meeting and would like to still watch the information, we'll have this recorded and put this on the webpage. So, or you can watch it later too if you'd like. Again. All right. So again, I'm going to give kind of the background of why for this project, how we got here, and why we're doing it. Dave Camp is going to go through the proposed improvements, and then we have a contractor on board, Jasper Construction Services. They're the contractor to be building this project, and so they will be Jacob Aarons with Bolton Mink, who's our consultant on this, and we'll have an on-site construction inspector, a liaison on-site, is going to cover the construction schedule, and then we'll have some time for question and comments. So background, this is actually kind of the middle piece. It's just the way it worked out with funding and other initiatives. And so in 2019, the section of University between 63rd and 55th was converted from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And that was part of a project also that included the old pedestrian bridge near the school was removed, and a pedestrian signal with refuge island was installed. 2019 as well was resurfaced between 55th and 48th, and that was also converted to 3 lanes, as well as a trail being added along the south side of University along the Waveland Golf Course. 2020, between 31st and 25th, it was a 5 to 3 lane conversion, as well as adding the on-street bike lanes. And that was done as a project in coordination with Drake University. They had a streetscape improvement planned, and we had a large sewer project planned as part of the sewer separation efforts. So that's when that was done. And then last year, as you may be familiar with, we resurfaced the roadway pavement between 25th and 39th. And that is part of this converted into a 3 lane with buffer bike lanes. So essentially, this project is kind of extending that project. And so there was also some storm sewer work that was done as part of the sewer separation efforts. And then we had to do an emergency repair of a collapsed sanitary sewer. Obviously, when we get into these projects, we find moral infrastructure that needs work. So, and just to clarify, with the 25th to 39th project, there is still some work to be completed this year, adding a mid-block crossing with the refuge island on University near 35th. We still need to replace the traffic signals at University and 31st. And then there's a parallel parking lane section that's needed to be constructed between 35th and 37th. So there is still some work to be done in that first phase of this section. So when we look at these projects, in this case, we had a resurfacing project and we had some sewer work to do. We always take a look at what does our transportation master plan move DSM say. And so this is kind of the highlights. It is part of our core bike network. It's been planned as part of our core bike network for some time. It's a truck route, transit route, and a primary emergency response route. The existing speed limit's 30 miles an hour and about 12,500 vehicles a day. So why is what's the point of the project? Well, the main goal is safety, and so and it's that safety for everyone along the corridor. This goes right through the heart of our major neighborhoods, residential areas, and so lots of pedestrian traffic. And so going to road diets such as this, going to 3 lanes, they've been proven nationally to improve roadway safety. It's obviously easier for pedestrians to cross 1 lane of traffic in each direction than it is a 4-lane undivided roadway with 2 lanes in each direction. And it's better from a vehicular standpoint. There are less turning conflicts. And the hope is that the more reasonable drivers will control the speeding traffic to try and reduce some of those speeds. And so we did take we had taken speed information. When we took speed information in the area of 45th and 46th Street, we recorded for a 24-hour period speeds. The 85th percentile speeds around between 37 and 39 miles an hour. And so that's what the majority of people are going. That's what 85% or below are traveling at that speed or below. And so a lot of people are traveling that speed. It's a speed limit of 30 miles an hour. So we've got to look at ways to try and curb that down here. So, and providing a right-sized corridor. This, as I mentioned before, this graph here shows the purple had been completed in 2019. The blue had been done in 2020. The green was the piece that started last year in 23. And so we're talking tonight about starting up the construction of the red, which is, between 39th and 48th. And so when I say right-sized corridor, the average traffic volumes, they're in their range of 10,000 to 15,000 vehicles a day. That is well within the range of a capacity of a 3-lane roadway. A 3-lane roadway can handle easily 20,000 vehicles a day. So when we look out and the Metropolitan Planning Organization models the future traffics, they projected at 17,000 vehicles a day. Again, still well within those capacity of a 3-lane roadway. So right sizing that corridor and improving pavement condition. That was one of the initiations from the project. We had to resurface the road, and so it is not a full reconstruct. So we are not tearing up the complete roadway down to the dirt. There are some locations where we have to put in a sewer, and so you will see us excavate down into the dirt. But for the most part, this is a milling down a couple inches and paving a couple inches, except for at some of the nodes, these commercial areas that for example, we see here, there will be some more concrete work and curb work to kind of clean up the parking areas and the sidewalks in that area. So, but again, we needed to improve the pavement condition. So Dave, I don't know if you can take it from here and tell.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Good evening, everybody. My name's Dave Camp. I'm the Chief Design Engineer for the City of Des Moines. Just going to run over the proposed improvements for you. Real quick, an overview, kind of like Steve said, we're going to resurface the pavement. This is also on University and also on 42nd Street from Crocker to University. This will be done in segments, not all at once. And Jacob will kind of go over that phasing here in a few slides. But converting University to 3-lane with buffered on-street bike lanes. We're going to be improving our sidewalk ramps to meet ADA along the corridor as well as installing some mid-block pedestrian refuge islands, one between 39th and 40th, one between 41st and 42nd, and then between 45th and 46th. This will just help the crossing for pedestrians through the corridor. So if you want to jump to the next one. Another one was we have some repairs of storm and sanitary. There will be some sanitary spot repairs throughout the project, but the major storm improvement will be down at 39th and University. This will we have a slide here in a few to explain that in a little more detail, but that'll have a lot of traffic impacts with that. But we are replacing the traffic signals at the intersections with Polk Boulevard and 42nd Street, and adding a 10-foot wide multi-use trail basically from the trolley plaza on the south side of University over to Polk. So we're also installing some off-street protected bicycle tracks or cycle tracks, excuse me, between 41st and 42nd. So on the next slide, it kind of shows a little bit of what those improvements are going to look like between 39th and 41st. We'll kind of step down the road a little bit to give a perspective of what to expect. So 39th Street, as we talked about, some storm sewer replacement in there. This will be converting from the 5-lane to 3-lane section between these areas with the on-street buffered bike lanes, you can kind of see in the right side of your screen. And then there'll be a mid-block pedestrian refuge for pedestrian crossing at 39th and 40th. So the next slide shows kind of a little bit more detail of that storm sewer outlet. We're focusing on the outlet of the increasing the size of the storm sewer pipes here at the outlet. We're also consolidating some of the pipes that were kind of coming in along 39th Street to make it a little bit more efficient. And this includes the storm sewer work in University, but this will not be to the extent that you saw in the previous phases. So it will still have some impacts, but not as significant as the previous phase. Next slide. So jumping forward or a little bit to the west, between 41st and 42nd, this is kind of a blow-up picture of the improvements planned in this area. Looking at a 3-way, 3-laned with a 2-way left turn lane in the center. You kind of see in red the off-street bicycle lanes that are kind of being brought behind the parking cars or the stopped buses. These will be paved in red, so it will have that delineation of the color on the pavement, just like you see in other areas of town. As we talked about before, the 42nd Street signal replacements. We will have some on the south side, a dart pull-off area and a shelter. And this also includes a mid-block pedestrian crossing and refuge median there in the middle. So that kind of shows you what's going on between 41st and 42nd. 42nd to 47th Street is mainly just a mill and overlay, converting the 5-lane to a 3-lane with a 2-way left center turn lane, providing those on-street buffered bike lanes with a mid-block pedestrian crossing refuge at 45th and 46th. So that kind of this section is more of a mill and overlay and restriping for that section. From 47th and to the west, this will be a 3-lane section We are putting a shared use path, as we talked about, from Waveland Golf Course or the Trolley Plaza over to Polk Boulevard. The parallel parking was added on the north side of University. Just kind of, we have a slide to show you all the parking here in a second, but we did add parking on the north side of University, west of 48th, shadowed and permanent parking there. The parking in front of the two business centers will be front end angled parking, just like it is today. There is a right in and out only at 47th Street to allow for with the development of that median to make this intersection act like a normal intersection instead of having it where it was very confusing for drivers. Did want to mention we did include a storm sewer replacement crossing the street to the east of 47th Street. This is was part of a stormwater master plan that we thought, well, we would go ahead and just replace that while we're in here doing some work and get it all done all at once. We did talk about the new traffic signals at Polk Boulevard. And the other thing we wanted to mention is our team worked with Mid-American to relocate the poles that are located in front of each of the business centers and got those to be relocated out of the parking areas so we could add parking spaces back into these areas. So I think with the next slide, we can kind of zoom in on a lot of the parking. The parking is a little bit different than what we've shown before due to the mid-am poles being able to be moved. So as you see on the north side in front of the businesses east of 48th, before there were 9 existing spots, and now we are proposing 11. On the south side, there were 10, and we're proposing 8, so that it's going to be the same number of parking spots in that area once we're done. And we talked a little bit about the parking along University. Right now, it's time restricted. You can't park there in certain times of the day, but we're going to shadow that with a bump out and have 18 parking spaces all the time. And then on the south side, we have 5 more parking spaces there that were kind of in front of the Trolley Plaza as well. So that gives you kind of for the area where we were looking at about 37 parking spots. We've added about 5 to get to about 42, but in front of the businesses, the total number did stay the same. So jump to the next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Jacob Ahrens to talk through the construction schedule and some of the more finer details of the staging with that.
Can everybody hear me here?
Yes, sir.
My video is not working for some reason. I don't know the setting that is causing that. So I do apologize there. So looking at the construction schedule and the phasing of everything, kind of as Dave and Steve both mentioned, we are starting with 42nd Street, which was not in the original plan. The basis kind of behind this is that's going to be one of the first and primary detour routes with the current condition of it. There are some hold-up spot repairs that we completed, coordinating with residents. The road closure for that will be a roughly 2 to 3 week window, currently estimated with the schedule we received from the contractor to be April to May. With that detour, it'll utilize Interstate 235 and 31st Street, with that being a designated truck route. As we jump to the next phase, 2A and 2B, as you see there in the top right corner, that's 2A. That's where the biggest component of construction will start. This will be underway potentially at the same time as phase 1, as we're not causing impacts into the university corridor, and more just a closure of 39th to get that storm sewer started, shorten the construction period by doing 2 components at once. So they'll work 39th out to University. Once they jump into 2B, that's when the closure of University would occur due to the depths of the storm sewer. Keeping in mind, we want to make sure that it's a safe area for pedestrians, vehicles, and stuff like that. So that's 2A is March to early July, and then 2B would be June to early August as the anticipated schedule from the contractor. That detour will utilize 42nd Street to I-235 and then back on 31st Street. Jumping to the first node there for phase 3, work tentatively is scheduled for early July to early September. There will be lane closures, more as in a lane shift. As we start construction is anticipated to start on the north side with the amount of utility relocations and some of the water main, digging trenches, stuff like that. We want to provide a safe working environment and then just a speedy, more space we have, the easier it is for construction schedule to progress. As sidewalks and driveways are being removed, we'll be working with the businesses to maintain access. As access is being adjusted, we'll make sure there's an access point at all times and then getting pavement put back as quick as possible, potentially on days that businesses are closed or not having business in and out. And then construction activity coordination will be with the businesses. Work will progress from the north side. We'll then shift to the south side. And then lastly, we'll finish up with the median just to provide shifts in traffic in a safe working environment. As we jump to the biggest phase in area, but it should be the quickest phase, there will be lane closures, shifting traffic from the north side to the south side. There's ADA improvements. And then, as David mentioned, this is just a simple mill and overlay through this area with one median there between 46th and 45th. That schedule is tentatively for August 2024. Jumping into phase 5, kind of finishing out the project here, work tentatively is scheduled for August and September of 2024. There will be the same lane closures as we were seeing over by 42nd to 41st, where we'll start on the north side. There is some sanitary sewer work here, so that'll provide as much space as possible to safely shift traffic around, provide adequate space. Working on the north side, we'll then shift to the south side. Once both sides are completed, we'll then put in the median there at 47th Street, kind of wrapping up that intersection for those turning movements. As driveways and sidewalks are removed, same process will take place as maintaining access in and out of businesses. We'll work with the businesses to see what days are best for removing pavement in front of their buildings. And if we got to look at some sort of temporary measure. And then as construction activities occur, just coordination. So with that, I'll kind of kick it back over to Steve and questions.
All right, thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Dave. We'll start with a question. I do want to, yeah, let's go here. I see Lou. Lou, can we get you to unmute there? Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. This is very, very interesting. I think I got most of it was pretty fast and a lot of areas covered and a lot of dates thrown out. I think the only question I really have is 42nd Street is your detour street, and you're resurfacing how much of that is from University? Yeah, there it is. So it's the purple and green are University, is that right?
That's
So
correct. I think Jacob and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not. So the first phase, the contractor will resurface 42nd. And so that's the only work that would be going on during those 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, but so that's only toward the north. It's not south towards 235.
So it actually goes from 235, we reconstructed up to Crocker Street, and we're resurfacing from Crocker Street up to University. So it's basically from University south toward the freeway is where we're resurfacing.
I'm sorry, I just saw the directional with north is on the right. That
Yep.
really
Yep.
got me confused.
Nope.
Okay,
I-
thank you very much.
And as you go out there, the section to the north we redid a few years ago, so that's in pretty good condition. The section to the south of University is in very it needs to be resurfaced. It's pretty rough. So
Yeah, Lou, I apologize. Yeah, we didn't have this. The university wasn't labeled on this. So, but yeah, this
Yeah.
blue and green, it's university.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Brian? Brian, if we can get you to,
Yeah,
there you
this
go.
is Brian, Hy-Vee Drugstore in the Uptown Shopping Center. Love the layouts and the architectural design. I think it's going to be a great project. Looking at the closures, proposed closures for the University Avenue at 42nd Street on East, as they're closing or doing work on those north driveways for the Uptown Shopping Center, do you anticipate our truck traffic, delivery vehicles, 18-wheelers particularly, needing to use the 42nd Street, or will they still be able to accommodate a lane at a time onto University?
Jacob, Dave, I don't know if you want to look onto that one. I think, you know,
Typically, they right where your
Yep,
where your
and
mouse is, they typically go straight out
Straight
by
out there.
Louis Wine Dive there to the north.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
this is a good conversation to have with you, kind of staging both days that you get deliveries, if it's every day, or if there are days you don't get deliveries, and coordinating that with the contractor to
Sure.
to work through those. So
Yeah, I just know between Campbell's and Hy-Vee, there are very few days we don't have 18-wheelers of some kind coming into the facility. And if we need to use 42nd Street, I think that's a doable option, but I could foresee needing some assistance with traffic control at that point. If you've ever tried to pull in and out of that shopping center
oh yeah,
onto
yeah.
42nd, it is very challenging, especially if you've got a box truck or an 18-wheeler. It's near impossible. So,
I would agree.
but
I would
that
agree
would
with
be
that.
a proposal or something I think we just need to have on our radar there. So,
Yep.
but yeah, absolutely, be more than happy to work with the construction team through the process. It's but I think that's something we might need to take a look at. Thank you.
thank you. Hey, John Davis, I don't know, just, can you just verify that we have, Brian, Beaker's, contact information from the registration? You know, if that's just to let me know if we have it.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Carol, if we can see if we can get here.
Hello, hi, thank
Hey,
you.
Carol.
Yay, I'm celebrating about 42nd Street. That is like such great news because it is a place where bicycles go to die. So thank you so much for including that. That is a big, big win. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. You know the question I'm going to ask. Are you going to accommodate a bike wanting to turn left from Polk onto University? Will there be a loop or some sort of detection so that we don't have to break the law to turn left?
Appreciate that, Carol. And yep. So the answer is yes. And I guess I'll give it a shot, and maybe Jen Dokovich or John Davis can make sure I'm speaking right. But my understanding is when the signals are placed, they'll be put in different types of loops. Quadrupole, I think I'm pronouncing it right, are the types of loops that will be put in to try and to better detect bicyclists. Because our understanding is now that that's not the that's the issue, is you can't get a signal until a car comes. And so they are correcting the loops. John or Jen, did I get that right?
You did get that right. Yes, there will be detection for northbound vehicles turning both right and left from Polk Boulevard onto University, and for vehicles, including bicycles, turning westbound left onto Polk Boulevard. east and west through traffic on University, that what we call it returns to green on its own. So it doesn't have detection at all. You will always get the green if there's not a vehicle waiting on Polk Boulevard. So yes, and those loops are quadrupole loops, and they're designed to pick up bicycles, motorcycles, cars, trucks.
So basically, it's normal loops are just like squares, you know, or rectangles, and these have multiple loops to better detect the bicycles. Is that correct, Jen?
Correct. They not to get too detailed, but a loop, when we talk about a loop, it's basically a ring of wire to create a magnetic field to pick up a change in inductance. And so what we do for a quadrupole loop is there's more wiring through the center to increase that magnetic field. So you don't have to be a large vehicle to be detected.
Thank you so much. You know that I've been asking for that for 3 years. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Just while you're on that page right there. So one of the things that's really important when you're on a bike is when it changes from like something like a red lane to not a red lane, like you're showing here, both north and south of University. How will those be knitted together, or how will a bike user, or more importantly, a car, know that a bike may be in a place where they weren't just a few minutes ago?
John, Jen, is there the green paint used at all, or is that, I'm not, maybe I don't know if the markings are all.
The markings that you see here are what we have. There would not
Okay.
be any markings through the intersection.
Okay, not
This meets our current standard.
okay.
Okay, so how does the bicyclist coming from the west side on the south side, like coming from the Waveland Golf Course, how do they know to get onto that? Because it almost makes it look like you're on the sidewalk there. How do you get up onto those red dotted, it shows as a red dashed lane and then it becomes a solid red lane? How do you get up on there?
So are you talking from the west?
Yeah, you're coming from the
So-
golf course, let's say.
So the west, it's the red dash is literally the pavement coloring. So the trail is coming from the west, and that trail continues on through there. It's just a coloring difference in that node. So there's
Okay.
no elevation difference at that location. You're just riding through like through the section.
We had to make it a different color because it's going to be flush at this location in front of the businesses, the Waveland Cafe and in other businesses along there. It's going to be flush with the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So we made it a different color. It'll actually be red because it'll be flush with the sidewalk in that area. So it's really just continuing that there's a trail along the Waveland Golf Course, and then we're using these the transition to red just to kind of signify you're coming into an urban area here, and then it's going to be the red pavement will be flush with the sidewalk, and then at Polk Boulevard, that's when bicyclists will have the opportunity to go to transition. This is all a depressed curb, so a flat curb, and so you'll have the opportunity to transition out into the buffered bike lanes.
Okay, so I remember now that there is I'm usually in the street because it's more convenient, but there is that off-road path. So this
Yep.
is connecting all the way down from like 55th or 63rd.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So then on the north side, that red there, that appears to be how does that work? What am I doing there?
So there you and Dave, correct me wrong, but you would stay in the buffered lane and you get off, get on this is a flush ramp, And so you'd be on the red. Again, this would be flush with the sidewalk. So the red is the bike lane, and then the gray next to it is the sidewalk. So they'd be flush, and then you'd have to cross at the signal. So
This is for people who are not comfortable riding in the street and want to cross and use the trail. For some people will stay in the road and just continue to head west in the road. But for anyone wanting to cross the street and get onto the trail at this location, this is their opportunity to make a safe left crossing the road.
Okay, so if I'm going straight,
You
so
just keep, yeah, you
I'm
just
gonna,
keep using,
I'm gonna go right behind those angled in parking spots.
if you
if
so
you want to
choose.
stay on the road, but if you didn't feel, you know, maybe the more novice rider might get on the red, and actually this would be like a separate path, and then
Uh-huh.
you cross, and that would transition you onto the separate shared use path that goes all the way down to 55th.
Okay, will there be any, let's say what I really want to do is turn right on 48th Street, right? Because that's a great north-south route. So will there be any pavement, any buffering or pavement markings for a bike?
Not, there won't be bike markings, but we did keep the pavement. Angled parking does have a buffer. It's 2 to 3 feet wider than a normal spot to try and allow that like buffer for backing out. So it would have a buffer, but just not there would not be the markings.
So at that point, you could, I mean, you could ride on the sidewalk or right on the street. You can get to 48th Street, but it's not going to have any special markings or turn for bikes on 48.
Yeah, I don't think you should tell bikes to ride on the sidewalk, especially in that location.
It's all about your, I mean, I would probably say your little kids is different than your expert riders, I would say. So
Yeah.
Okay. And then will Kingman be closed again this summer like it is now?
Kingman is closed right now for a sanitary sewer repair. Kingman we are working on a resurfacing plan for Kingman, and so if it is closed this summer, it would be short-lived.
Okay.
So like
it's-
short-lived, Dave, is like what
Like
would that
2
become
days.
roughly?
You know, you'd mill it you'd go in sections. You'd mill one day, you'd pave the next day. It's just the resurfacing of Kingman. So
It's closed right now, and it's unfortunate because it's like it's a parallel street to University, and it's a place to ride, a low stress place to ride, especially while University is under construction. So the timing of having them closed at the same time is really unfortunate. So if there's a way to really make the Kingman work short,
we should be done. The hope was to be done I think it was June, because what's going on there is it's a sanitary sewer repair, but we have to relocate 2 water lines, one being 8-inch and one being 20. That's why everybody got the notice about water being out as well. So it's not a simple fix, but yes, and that's a big deal to get that one done. And Waterworks didn't want us closing that or shutting that 20-inch water main down in the summer, so we had to do it in the winter. So
Dave,
we're hurrying it. And you are correct. We're not going to be closing University right away. We're going to be working on 39th Street sewer north of University first. So
the plan, Dave, is that the Kingman work would be done in June before the real heart of the University work starts in July. Is that?
That's the plan if everything goes toward plan. So.
Okay, and I've taken up too much time, but I'm just gonna talk about a little bit about the phase that's finishing up now. It is really in a bad state. I last rode through it on Sunday, heading from the Varsity Theater, headed towards Polk. It was nothing but barricades with no signage, and I almost got run over 2 times in that short amount of distance from big old pickup trucks. And one of them waved at me, not with a friendly wave, and a scream of get on the sidewalk. So please, provide some signage about bikes can use full lane or something, because it is there's nowhere for us to ride, right? And it's very unsafe and looks there's so many barricades, it's very cluttered. So, hopefully that piece will get done quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Laura? Laura, forget you.
Hi, everybody. So this looks great. I'm all for the bike lanes and things. My question that I've, sent to you guys is that we have 7 or 8 individual business buildings between 42nd and 44th Street. And right now we currently have on-street parking available. We all in this neighborhood know that that is not currently safe to actually use most of the time though, so it doesn't get used often. My question is, why are we losing the on-street parking for a commercially mixed use, commercially zoned block here?
And Laura, just to clarify, you're meaning you heard you say 41st to 42nd, right?
Well, between 42nd and 44th or 45th, it's, we're all commercial businesses here, minus 3 homes in this block. And so, I recognize that parking does not get used often because frankly, people are just flying around each other, going around turning left off of 42nd, going around Little Caesars there. And so nobody feels super safe parking there. But it is available. And so I'm a little bit concerned that all of these commercial businesses are losing the possibility of on-street parking, when I think this could be a great opportunity to make that more functional for these businesses in this block.
Okay. And you're saying all the way to 44th, just to clear? Or maybe just the first block to 43rd?
That first block is all, there's 7 or 8 of us commercial buildings in this, this first block right here.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that comments. I think, is it now, because now it's currently just, you can park there just some times of the day, but not during the peak hours. Is that correct in that? Yeah.
Not 4 to 6 on our north side and not whatever the morning shift is on the south side.
Okay.
And, it's not only just the commercial, then as that goes further, there's several, multifamily units and things like that as well. And I think they use that further down the block a little bit more on the street. So.
Thank you. We'll have to look into that, Dave. I don't know if you had any other comments on that, but so we'll have to.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that a lot.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Terry Taylor. Get you.
Yes, hello, this is Terry, and I'm sitting here with my business neighbor, Kate Edel, and she is the owner of Heartland Veterinarian. And we're at the corner of 41st and University. And Kate has a question about the section of, couple questions about our section, yeah.
Okay. Whoa. Sorry, Terry, I was able to hear you, but I apologize, I could not hear Kate.
Can you hear her now? Sorry.
I hear you, but
It's paused for some reason. Hello, can you hear us?
I can, yes, I can hear you, Terry. Yep.
Okay, Kate, go ahead. No. Okay.
Terry, I apologize if,
Yeah,
we can
I
hear
can
you,
hear-
we can hear you very clear, but we
Loud and
can't
clear.
hear Kate at all. It doesn't, yes. I don't know, maybe we could, Dave, maybe we could put up we'll put up Chris's information and maybe connect, Kate with Chris directly.
Yeah.
So, let me, what's up here? Let me just put up Chris's information real quick. And then the next one we'll have is Phil, but let me,
Chris has put it in the chat.
oh, Chris just put it in the chat?
Yes.
Here, let me share it so it's on video too. Is the okay, let's go ahead and switch. All right, is Dave, is the web page
Yep.
showing up?
Yep.
So again, as I mentioned, if you go to the city website and then go under departments engineering and then go to projects and studies, and then you can see here there's a whole bunch of different projects. University, type in university, click on the more info, and here's kind of the background. You know, this page has been up for a couple of years, but what it also has is our project manager, Chris Cool, and there's his information there, 515-283-4073, with his email ckkuhl@dmgov.org. And Chris also put it in the chat here, if you can see the chat. So, but I wanted to flash that up for a second here. So I don't know, Kate, if it works better to just call Chris directly, and I apologize if the audio is not working there. Phil?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I guess I have a couple of one major concern and a couple of questions, I guess. I own the Waveland Tap, and I have been on that street employed for almost 40 years. And so I've seen a lot of comings and goings on University, which is a major thoroughfare east and west in the city. And my concern, and I've witnessed this firsthand in the past couple weeks, is anytime there's any type of even minor incident on the freeway, whether it's traffic related or even weather related, everybody funnels off the freeway immediately, if not at 31st, certainly by 42nd Street heading west. And it is a major traffic clog up. And I have seen with my own eyes driving in it that road rage and people flying off University in frustration with 2 lanes of traffic each way into residential neighborhoods. And I'm very concerned about the safety or lack of safety that's going to be created by cutting the lanes in half. And I guess that would be one thing to address at this moment, and then I can get to some other questions.
Yep. And so that one, again, it's one of those, from a safety standpoint overall, we've had from analyzing the city crash history, the 4-lane undivided roadways are without a doubt the roads with the majority of our most serious injury and fatal crashes. And again, I'm specifically talking these 4-lane undivided roadways. And so that is one of the main reasons for going down to 3 lanes is to make the roads safer. And that's always the toss up is it's a philosophy of designing for the worst case peak scenario versus designing for the vast majority of the time. And this road again goes right through the heart of our neighborhoods and 2 commercial nodes where there's a lot of people. And so from a pedestrian safety standpoint, 3 lanes are definitely safer. And even from a vehicular standpoint, I know it's not the fastest. This is not going to get you the fastest. And I totally get the road rage. I hate to say it. I've lived here for about 9 years now, and I've lived in Illinois, Chicagoland, Madison, Wisconsin. We do have a little bit different culture here, sad to say, maybe with less patience. But on the other hand, designing for that kind of unique scenario where there is, and I know it doesn't happen. It does happen a number of times, but the worst case scenario when the interstate shut down, what that would do is lead toward more crashes and higher speeds during the vast majority of the rest of the time. And I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but again, it's the philosophy of not designing for that peak worst case scenario, and instead designing for the vast majority of time to make it safer for everyone along the corridor.
So basically, in a nutshell, it's the lesser of 2 evils funneling or having people funnel themselves down thinner residential streets at times like that is the lesser of 2 evils.
That could be way to put it. Yeah. I mean, if that's, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess a couple questions I have that are construction related.
Mhm.
We've been told that the sidewalk is going to be replaced all the way up to the edge of our building. And is that still correct?
That's correct. Yep. Dave, I don't know if
Okay. So it's my understanding of fire code that you have to have a front and a back exit for fire code. How is the construction when we've been told that we are not going to have to close at any time during this improvement and construction? How are they going to allow or have safe access to the front of our building when the sidewalk is completely torn away?
And Jacob and Dave, I don't know if you want to take that, but I know we do quite a bit of projects like these in commercial areas where it's kind of a staging where you use either temporary or you do pieces of sidewalk at once. And Dave, you kind of your screen was blurred. I don't know if you're still.
Yeah, it's blurred. So, Jacob, have you talked to Jasper about how they are going to approach this one? We've done it.
Not specifically yet, no.
And we do this quite frequently with businesses, working with them and keeping them open and still, making the improvements. So that might be something we want to meet with you on site and go over the plan with the contractor to talk through with that. So,
all right.
Dude,
I guess. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, John Davis. Do we have Phil's contact information just to make sure you don't need to tell it's covered, but do we have his email just so we can start that coordination?
I think we do. I'll double check.
Thank you. Sorry, Phil, I just want to make sure we can.
No problem. That's
And-
great.
and-
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and some of it could be, we've seen this where we do pieces at a time and we've had to even build like actual temporary like ramps to
Okay.
the doorway. So it's just kind of like how it works best with you and your operations for whether we need to have them constructed at a certain time, an odd hour or something, or there could be different ways to work around it. But that's where I think we best just have them come out there and stand on the sidewalks, right, talk with you.
Okay. And during the peak phase of construction directly in front of us, for deliveries, there is no time we're not going to have access to Polk Boulevard. Is that correct? For like beer semis, delivery trucks for the cafe next door to me and the catering place next door to me. We're never going to not have access to Polk Boulevard for deliveries, right?
I think the only time would be when the resurfacing comes through on University around the corner. But Polk Boulevard should not be impacted by that.
Okay.
But Dave, what you're saying is when a milling machine is milling the actual pavement on the Polk approach or the paver itself is paving it's going to be asphalt. So once the finishing rollers get done with the asphalt surface, it can be driven on. But when all that equipment is there, then that could be a challenge, right?
Yeah, and you can come from the south
south.
on Polk.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure. As long as
Yeah.
we have access from the south,
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, you may not have access to Polk at some point in time from University, but from the south, Polk will be open. So
Okay. I guess another concern that I have is when the sidewalk is there, the pedestrian / bicycle lane in between parking and the sidewalk, I'm foreseeing imminent maybe danger, especially if maybe not a pedestrian, but a bicyclist autos do this. People not paying attention or maybe driving too fast, pedaling too fast in an area. When you're having people parking and having to cross a 10-foot bike path, pedestrian path to get to the sidewalk to enter the building, that is somewhat of a concern for me.
Mhm.
And where does the liability or the monitoring lie in that area?
Yeah, I mean, that's our attempt to, with the different color of pavement, again, at entering the bicycles that come along the trail, they'd be coming up the hill and then changing the pavement color to kind of differentiate and at least alert people that there's something different here. And then again, the hope is that the majority of bicyclists would not be able to go that fast. I mean, it's coming into a very commercialized, dense area here with the restaurants and the bar
Sure.
and the other businesses and
So basically we're trusting, just like we're trusting an automobile not to speed or drive in a certain fashion on a roadway, we're trusting, joggers, bicyclists to pay attention to what they're doing in this area.
correct. And this is not completely uncommon in other commercial areas where you have a combination of lots of peds and bikes in a shared use trail along with the sidewalks. It'll actually be, the total width will be 18.5 feet. Where today I believe it's 11 from the back of the curb to the building. So it is going to be 9, not or 7.5 feet wider than it is today from an overall pavement standpoint to give more room. So
Okay. I guess my other thing that, you know, the way our weather patterns have been lately, another concern since it is a labeled bike path and trail, quote unquote, who is responsible in the winter months for keeping that accessible and clean? When it's in between our parking and our sidewalk. Because you're essentially, when you're pushing our parking essentially out into the lane of traffic on the outside now that is covered by the city plowing the street, is the city going to be responsible for maintaining that bike path and snow removal and removing it, because we are not allowed to pilot anywhere where an automobile can be have blocked vision. I would assume the city is responsible for keeping that path clear and accessible.
Chris, Dave, do you know who is doing the trail to the west? I have to remember if it's our Public Works or Parks and Rec Department or.
I think, well, it's one of the two, but yeah, it's the city, whether it's Public Works or Parks, will be
Okay.
doing the snow removal.
So, okay. So basically they would be plowing, shoveling, or whatever the path in between the parking and the sidewalk. And we're still responsible, as we are now, for the parking area and our sidewalk and directly in front of our business.
You would still, yeah, you'd still be responsible for that 6.5, 7 feet between the building and the trail. Yes.
Okay, what about the parking itself?
In the so you're saying the parking you do now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And also, since the bike path isn't in the picture at this point, we have because the cafe opens at 6 a.m. and my business is open till 2 a.m. Our snow removal, they will come anytime at a certain amount of snow. Now, is the city or Public Works, whoever, going to be there and have that path cleared in time for business hours all the time?
No, they would it would be like any other trail or residential street where it would be there. I think the typical rule is 48 hours. So,
Okay. So I see that as a major concern. If we have a foot of snow and we have our sidewalk cleared and we have our parking cleared, that pedestrians would have to step over a foot or whatever of snow because the Public Works hasn't gotten to that path yet. Who is responsible for that liability, be it ice, a large snowfall, or what have you?
well, again, we're responsible for the snow removal, but there's no way I mean, we'd be able to get it removed, beyond what our normal clearing is. Like I said, the 48 hours.
Sure. But when you're running a business, you can't wait that long. If it's something that is an obvious, and like I'm trying to say, yeah, a couple inches of snow is not a major issue. But like some of the storms we had in January, we're not able to wait for 48 hours for something to get cleared in order for our clientele and patrons to have safe access to our businesses.
Yeah, and it would be similar situation downtown here. We don't,
Sure. Yes.
we're in the same boat downtown currently. You know, where unfortunately people have to, on a major snow event, they end up having to walk around or kind of create paths through the snow, you know. And again, I'm not saying that that's the best scenario, but that's, to be honest, that's all over the place.
Mhm. Well, I've been to a lot of places and been downtown. Besides an insurance company, there isn't a tremendous amount of businesses such as ours that are open that early in the day, that don't have access to a parking ramp, where they don't have to commute to their space via a sidewalk or the street.
It's, I, well, there's a number of places, and what we can do is have you talk with Public Works and, you know, and talk with them about that in more specifics.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're doing it themselves or if they have a contractor do it. That's the one question we'd have to
Right.
find out from them.
Well, and I just, yeah, like I said, prefaced it earlier, our weather patterns of late haven't really had the issue come up, but you know, what if once this happens, we go back to Iowa winters like we had 30 years ago? You know, when it only snows a couple times a year, it's not a big deal. If it snows like it did 10 years ago, where we don't see grass for 100 days, what then?
So
Right.
one of the questions in the chat was how, is this similar to Ingersoll? And yes, this is very similar to Ingersoll, where they have businesses that they're open late, some are open early, and there's a raised cycle track between the parking and in that scenario, the city does contract that work out to a third party. So this
Okay.
would probably be the similar, but we can talk with Public Works and see what, and they're aware of this coming up. So,
Sure.
but yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
We're not going to be building it before it's this end of this
Sure.
year. So we're looking at next year too. So I foresee it being similar to that, where it's a third party contract. So
I guess my major concern is because of the nature of our society now, unfortunately. I guess I'm more concerned, as well as other people in our area, who is responsible and liable for someone falling in that situation. Do they call the city lawyer because it's their trail? Or are we responsible just because it's in front of our business? I guess that's
Well,
major.
yeah,
That's
it is
an
a
issue too.
Yeah, it's a city asset. Now the challenge would be is for someone that, if there was a foot of snow, is again, the city code is 48 hours. And so
Sure.
there is some, just like in front of my house,
Right.
I'm on the east side. I don't have to instantly, clean my sidewalk the second a snowflake falls. I mean,
Sure.
but but to your question, it is a city asset. It is a city facility.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
one of the other questions in the chat, Steve, was where the actual dart stops are going to be.
Yeah, I was trying to just go through those. I know that, Dave, did you want to, let's see here. We probably don't have these on these exhibits, do we?
I know Jacob and Chris know exactly where they're at, so
I was trying to find that.
If you go back to the one node there, starting on the west end where we showed the parking, you can see them a little clearer. For the most part, everything outside of the nodes, off the top of my head, stays within general vicinity of where they are today. On this sheet here, you can see just west of 48th on the north side, just outside that green oval. There's just right there. So there is a bus pad projected in the future that DART is looking to coordinate. For the time being with this project, we have provided that access point to the curb for pickup. And then on the south side, just right across the street, we've moved it just slightly further west. That way, when buses do stop, they're not conflicting with turning movements there for people coming in and out of 48th Street and the traffic around the node of between 48th and Polk.
Yeah.
And then the other specific ones would be down between 42nd and 41st. Those will be designated areas built as shelter pads, and then DART will install the shelters after the project. So in the darker gray there on both sides, the south and the north, the pads will be installed for the future DART shelter.
And then, like you said, the other ones are pretty much where they are today, and I think we've tried to try and get ped crossings nearby. Some of those are, right? So. Okay, and then let's see here. Chris Williams asked what traffic control will be in place on 42nd while it's being reconstructed during the school year. So let's go to that staging there. And again, one clarification, Chris, this is going to be resurfacing, so it's not the reconstruction where we're digging all the way down to the dirt. So the contractor would be milling off pavement and paving new back. But that is a good question. What is this? I don't know, Jacob or Dave, do you have any comments on what this will look like? It is during the school year, April, May, with the school just to the south there. So.
Yeah, that's, well, let's see here. I'm just looking through the provisions here. Yeah, so one thing we'll probably talk with the schools, and yeah, we'll just have to coordinate with the schools. I can't answer that right off the top of my head. So
we may have to coordinate with the contractor to do maybe some operations where they can flag and do lane closures and during the week, but then do we need to maybe consider talking to the contractor about weekend surface paving or something to try and accommodate that? Or I guess there's something we can just discuss with the school.
Or they have a lot of days where they're off too. So
right.
So
that's a good point, Chris. We're gonna have to work with the contractor and talk to the school district about when we think maybe some of those major activities such as paving would be best to do. So. Kate asks, my question is regarding our business receiving deliveries for our trucks. Will they be able to reach Heartland Animal Hospital through 41st? So good question. During construction, it's, something like their trucks obviously have to get into this parking lot. I don't know, Jacob or Dave, is that just a coordination effort of when there'll maybe be a short time frame where this work there's actually paving at 41st and 41st is closed?
Well, remember they have two accesses into that parking lot right now, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, but this access, there obviously would be a time for the new access when we're rebuilding the driveway access. So they would have, we wouldn't do them at the same time, I guess, is that to put it that way, right? So
that's the idea, that you would stage between those. So
yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then the intersection of 41st, there's not a full reconstruct. So access would be still provided outside of that window of when the milling or paving operation takes place.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, keep going through it here. Kate asks, so the crosswalk on University between 41st and 42nd have lights present to help crossing. is this one of the ones where we're putting the conduits in, but then there's not a. there
That's
wouldn't be- there
correct.
would not- Yeah, there's not a signal. It's gonna be. Again, with this scenario, you'd actually only have to cross one lane at a time, so. But there would not be a signal or flashing lights there. So there would be the signage, the warning signage, but not a signal or flashing lights. And then we have the Heartland, Kate, from the Heartland Animal Hospital. We receive large deliveries. Can we be in contact on how we can facilitate these? As our delivery trucks sometimes have difficulties getting through. Kate Edel, can we, John Davis, I don't know if we can check for Kate Edel's contact information.
Yes,
See,
we
I
have
apologize
those.
if I'm pronouncing that
Yep.
wrong, but
And she has Chris's too, so.
okay, she has Chris's now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those will both be good to coordinate with her and Brian for those truck deliveries there for that node.
Yeah. Okay. Carol puts a comment. I agree, not ideal, and she's talking about the bike lane, the shared separate bike path with the sidewalk that are flushed together. Conflicts between customers going in and out of the businesses and the bikes. Yeah, it will be definitely a congestion area at times. Trying to answer the dart stops. Phil, you have your hand up. Phil, question.
Yes,
comment?
thank you. I
Yep.
thought of one more quick thing.
Yeah.
That the red diagram at Polk Boulevard, where they can cross from the north side to the south. How is that controlled? Is it bikes cross at their own risk? Is there a light where traffic would have to stop for that, or how is that being monitored?
That one they would everyone, bikes and pedestrians, would use this as a crossing, so it'd be the traffic signal, so you'd have to press the push button. And
So it'd be like a walk, don't walk type of signage, like other corners and stuff or crosses.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Monica has a comment. I'm one of the homeowners at University and 42nd next to Come and Go. How long will our driveway be blocked, and where will we be detoured? Where will we park our vehicles? So good question. This would be, let me see if I can get to the, maybe a good staging section there. It's probably maybe in the green section. I don't know, Jacob or Dave, can you talk about like the construction kind of, in the green section where there's homes and how long people might be out of their driveways or how that might look?
So that'll get talked through with the contractor. I would see it very similar as the phases that we just saw east of 39th there, that they mill them outside of the peak hours and put back pavement as quick as possible. So they'll do the milling operation and then they'll come back through with the overlay operation to plan on doing that outside those peak hours as best as possible. So that allows the residents to exit their driveways in the morning, and then when they come back in the evenings, hopefully everything is put back to provide that access back into those locations. Similar looking down 42nd Street as well. That would be coordinated, setting out a flyer to everybody of when it's anticipated, what are going to be the impacts. And if there's sections we break it down by with the contractor, that'd be notified out to everybody at that time.
That's a good one. You mentioned the flyers, so there'll be letters to during certain phases to people if there's closures or major items of work happening. And Jacob, we do this project and the impacts with we're going to have an on-site construction inspector, project liaison. Jacob, do we know who that person is?
Yep. So the primary contact for Bolton and Mink out there to doing the day-to-day operations will be Rob Silliman. And I can pass that contact along here. Let me get it pulled up and I'll just put it in the chat as well.
Okay. So Rob Silman will be out there, and so when we get near major items of work, so say before the first phase, right, is yellow 41st or 42nd Street. We would look at issue maybe having like door hangers or something that would have Rob Silman's contact and saying, hey, this work is starting, and that sort of thing. So
Yep, we'll work closely with the contractor just to make sure that as those flyers are developed, we're walking around with them. That way, if there's specific questions directly tied to operations, we have the contractor and the inspection staff hearing the same information. That way it's passed along in unison.
Terry asked about the crosswalk in front of the building between 41st and 42nd. Will there be lights similar to Hubble east of 31st and University? And so Hubble School. No, again, this is the one where, yeah, we would not have actual lights at these crossings. It'll be a refuge island, so you'd have to cross. There'll be signs, so the fluorescent yellow signs, but there will not be lights. So.
And I do have Rob's contact information in there in the chat
Okay.
for everybody.
Maggie, I know it's not perfect. It's going to be much improved. Really appreciate the work done to take peds and pedestrians and bicyclists and motorists, residents, businesses all into account. And Chris says, please send to Rob's contact. Yep. So there, Rob Silman, Rob R-O-B, Silman, S-I-L-L-I-M-A-N. Rob Silman will be the on-site contact, and his number is 515-601-9855. 515-601-9855. That's Rob Silman at boltonmink.com. ROB.SILLIMAN at BOLTON-MENK.com. So, and Devin Perry with our communication team said our website will be updated tomorrow with this information, with the contacts and everything. So that's great. Thanks, Devin. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I do want to thank everyone for their time. I appreciate everyone's patience. We know this construction's impactful. We're hoping for everyone's sake it moves as quickly as possible, and but we know it takes time when it gets to the sewer work and some of these improvements. But we hope everyone will be really appreciative of when it's done. I think it is gonna new paving the road and cleaning up some of the areas is really gonna improve this area. So I'm excited about it. So, but again, I appreciate everyone's patience. Please, we got everyone the contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out. I know we've talked about some specific businesses we need to have the meetings with as construction gets closer, and so I appreciate that as well. Dave, Jacob, do you have anything at all?
Nope, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
Weird.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Everyone, please have a wonderful evening, and I appreciate everyone's time and joining us this evening. Thank you so much. And again, this video is being recorded, so we're going to post it on the website if you know people who didn't get a chance to watch it, so they have the information as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.